Let's talk about object-oriented Java. Okay, so this is the introduction to classes. All programs require one or more classes that act as a model for the world. For example, a program to track student test scores might have student, course, and grade classes. Our real-world concerns, students and their grades, are inside the program as classes. We represent each student as an instance or object of a student class. This is object-oriented programming because programs are built around objects and their interactions. An object contains state and behavior. I'm going to say this once more. An object contains state and behavior. Classes are a blueprint for objects. Blueprints detail the general structure. For example, all students have an ID. All courses can enroll a student, etc. An instance is the thing itself. This student ID, this student has an ID of 42. This course enrolled that student. Let's review with another example. A savings account at a bank. What would a savings account know? The balance of money available. What should a savings account do? Deposit money and withdraw money. So if we have a look at this image here, it says the state, so also known as fields, and behavior, also known as methods. So methods we've seen in the previous lessons, and fields are going to be variables that kind of describe the object or describe the state of the object. Imagine two people have accounts that are instances of the savings account class. They share behavior, how they deposit and withdraw, but have individual state, their balances, for example. And even with the same balance amount, these accounts are separate entities. Now, if we have a look at the instructions, it goes like this. Our text editor contains a complete class definition that will build up as we progress through the lesson. Run the code to see it in action. So our text editor is referring to this one. So we have a file called store.java. Inside this file we have a class called store, and this class starts here and ends all the way at the bottom on the line 23. And we have some instance fields. We have something that we haven't seen before, but we're going to cover in this chapter about object-oriented programming. So something called a constructor, which is just a method, but it's a more specific type of method, and we'll see what that means in the future lectures. We have the main method, which this one we have seen before, so it has the main method. And that's pretty much it. So we have instance fields, we have a constructor method, and we have the main method. Okay, I'm gonna run this now because it says run the code to see it in action. Our first shop sells lemonade at 99p per unit. Our second shop has 12 units remaining. Okay, so this is the result of this line starting on line 19, this code, and the one starting on line 21. Okay, let's go to the next lesson. Okay, classes, and this is the syntax, so the way we write things, okay, when it comes to classes. The fundamental concept of object-oriented programming is the class. A class is a set of instructions that describe how an instance can behave and what information it contains. Java has predefined classes such as system, which we've seen before. If you remember, we've used this one to print things on the screen. So system.out.println, which we've used in logging text to our screen, but we also need to write our own classes for the custom needs of a program. Here's the definition of a Java class. So we have the class, starts and ends with curly braces. We have some comments here. We have the main method as well. Okay. This example defines a class named car. So we see the name here. Public is an access level modifier that allows other classes to interact with this class. So it's talking about this public here, that keyword. For now, all classes will be public. So for now, we know whenever we want to declare a class, we're going to use the keyword public, which says, yes, if other classes want to talk to our class, they can do so because we've declared this class as public. Okay, and the usual thing to declare the class, we will have the keyword class and then followed by the name of the class, starting with a capital letter. Okay, this class has a main method which lists the tasks performed by the program. Main, so the main method, runs when we execute the compiled car.class file. In the instructions, if we have a look at the instructions, it goes like this. In the code editor, create a public store class. So in the code editor, we're going to create a class called store. Okay, we've just done this. So I'm going to run it. Well, of course. Why are we getting an error here? Well, because we've created a class, but it doesn't have the main method. So public static void main, and inside the main we do string args. Okay, if I'm gonna run this again now, we're not going to get any errors because we have the class and indeed we have the main method as well, which is required to exist in a class if we're going to run that class. Okay. So it was exactly like that. Our program will not compile without the main method. We've just seen this in the previous example, in the previous run of the file. We're going to move on to the next lesson. Okay, constructors. We're going to talk about constructors. We create objects, which are instances of a class, using a constructor method. The constructor is defined within the class. Here's the car class with a constructor. So we've defined the class that has the name car. And if you look here, we have public car, so same name as the class, followed by parentheses. So this pretty much looks like a method, okay? It looks like a method. So this is a constructor, which is essentially a type of method, but is more a special method if you want to think about it like this. Okay, and then we have our usual main method here. It says the constructor car, so this one, shares a name with a class. So our constructor shares the name of the class. Just the way the name of the class needs to be the same as the name of the file that class is in. Okay. We create instances by calling or invoking the constructor within main. Okay, so within main, we should be calling the car constructor, which belongs to the class, called car. And by invoking the constructor, we're going to create an object. So an object from that class. Okay, where were we? The constructor car shares the name with a class. We create instances by calling or invoking the constructor within main. Okay, so within the main method. This example assigns an instance to the variable Ferrari. Okay, so we have the class called car, we have the constructor, and then if we have a look at the main method here, we have a variable. So this one here is a variable. This is the type, but this is a custom type. We've seen this in the previous examples. We've seen an int, we've seen a boolean, we've seen a double, we've seen a string as well. But this time we use the type car, okay? Because in the end the class is just a type specification. It's like a model. It's a blueprint to create something. It's a custom data type. So if you take anything from this whole video, understand that a class is a custom data type. So therefore, we're going to use the type. Type is going to be car. We're going to use the name of the variable, okay? So this variable is going to hold the type car, okay? So the value that we're going to give to this variable is going to be of type car, okay? And the way we actually create an instance of our car class is by using the new keyword followed by the constructor, okay? So new car, okay? As with other variable declarations, we specify the type car, which I've just shown you before, and the name of the variable Ferrari, okay? Variables that reference an instance have a type of the class name, okay? So essentially, like we are used to declaring a variable, okay, we know that we first have to put the type and then we have to put the name of that variable. Well, in this case, the type of our variable is going to be car. We invoke the constructor method, which is the car, so this one, yeah, and use the keyword new in front of it to indicate that we're creating an instance of this car, okay, of the car class, This is the first time we've called a method that we've also defined. Main is run automatically and we did not define the println method. Introducing a second method is a big step in your programming journey, so congratulations. Now, if we have a look at the instructions, it says, let's explore how code execution moves around the file with two methods. Add a print statement inside our store constructor with the message I am inside the constructor method. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this, and this is our constructor. We're gonna go inside there, and then we go system.out.println. We end it with a semicolon, and because it's a string, so because we want to type something we want to display something on the screen, we're gonna put it in double quotes. We'll see this message wherever we create an instance of the store by calling the constructor. Okay, so let's explore how code add a print statement, which we've just done here. We'll see the message. Okay, run. So the start of the main method. Now we got this one, okay? So that's the only thing that got displayed on the screen. Why? Well, because our program is gonna run and execute everything that it can find in the main method. And what can it find right now in the main method? Well, on line 11 we said display on the screen this text, start of the main method, which it just did here. if we have a look at the second instruction, it says we did not see our constructor message printed because we haven't run the code inside the constructor. Okay, so in order to run the code inside the constructor, well, we have to call or invoke this method or this constructor. Okay, inside the main, create an instance of store called lemonade stand. So we want to create an instance of our store class called lemonade stand. Okay, so lemonade stand, this is the name of our variable. But what's going to be the type of our variable? Well, it's going to be store. Okay, now we say equals to, let's use the new keyword like we've seen before, and then in order to create a new instance of our store class, yeah, which is also called an object, yeah, of type store, we're gonna call this the constructor. Okay, we're gonna end it with a semicolon. Now at this point, what do we have in our main method? So we have what is here on line 11, which is, okay, print on the screen this text, but also as it goes down and looks for code to execute, it reaches line 14 and it looks, okay, we have a variable of this type which contains this thing. Okay, but then when it runs this one, what does this one contain? Well, if you look how this constructor was defined, it has inside this one. So we're gonna get on the screen, once we run this code, we're gonna get this text followed by this text, because this text here on line 5 is contained within our constructor. Okay, and whenever we invoke the constructor, it's gonna execute all the code that is in the constructor as well. Okay, so if we're gonna run, there you go. So we got the start of the main method, which is the result of this line of code, and then this line of code, I am inside the constructor method as the result of code that is on line 14. Okay, now if we have a look at the next instruction, it says inside the main, print lemonade stand to see how Java represents this instance. So as we've seen in the previous lessons, we have a variable. If we're going to use system.out.print and then we print that variable, we should get the actual contents of that variable. But let's see what happens if we run this code. Okay, so if we try and run this lemonade stand variable of type store that we've just created. Okay, so I'm gonna run this now, and there you go. So we are getting this as a result of line 17. Okay, so we can see it gets store. Store is the name of the class, and this at and the rest of this code or this numbers and letters is the actual location in the memory where our object resides. Okay, where our object resides. Maybe this is complicated, but rewind a little bit the video to hear what I just said about this one. And as we go through the following lessons, we're gonna understand and we're gonna learn a bit more. Even if it doesn't make sense now, let's just persevere, and we're gonna end up understanding everything about classes. Okay, for now I'm gonna press the next button to go to the next lesson, and we're gonna talk about instance fields. Okay, so our last exercise ended with printing an instance of store, which looked something like this. Okay, the first part, store, refers to the class, and the second part refers to the instances location in the computer's memory. So this part, okay, or this part in here, represents the location in memory where the object is found, where the object is located, okay? We don't care about memory location, but our instances have no other characteristics, okay? So when it says our instances, it talks about our objects, the objects that we are creating from our class that we've just defined here, okay? We'll add associated data to an object by introducing instance variables or instance fields. Instance fields are the state in our objects. We want car instances of different colors, so we declare a string color instance field, okay? So this is going to be a variable. It's going to be of type string that is going to hold some value of type string, of course. And this is going to be one of the fields that is going to tell us something about the object that we are creating. It might be a green car, it might be a red car, but this way we are modeling, we are describing our objects or our instances, okay? In this image here, we see we have a class called car, okay? And we are declaring here some instance fields, okay? Then we can recognize this as the constructor, okay? And then we can recognize the main method. This declaration is within the class, and the instance variable will be available for assignment inside the constructor, okay? Fields are type of state each instance will possess. So whenever we're going to create a store, so store number 1 or store number 2. Each store is going to have a property or a variable or an instance field, yeah, or an instance variable called color, okay, in our car class here. So each object that we create from this car class, whenever we create it by invoking the constructor, is gonna be okay. What we can set the actual color of that class that of that object that we created. Now, fields are a type of state each instance will possess. One instance may have red as its color, another can be blue, or etc. We'll learn how to assign values in the next exercise. Now, if we have a look at the instructions, it says like this: add some state to our store class. So declare a string instance field for product type, okay? So we have a string product type, okay? We've just declared it. We've seen this one before. We haven't given it a value, so we haven't initialized it, okay? We've just declared it at this point. We're gonna run it. So we're getting, of course, we are getting same code like in the previous lecture in number 3 here. So this one is the result of code that executes on line 12. This one, so whenever we create an object, yeah, so it prints this one because we're calling the constructor. So the store, if we have a look at the store, there you go, it's gonna print whenever we call that constructor. It's gonna print whatever code is inside of that constructor. So it prints this one. And then this one on line 16, it printed the name of the class and the memory location where that object resides, okay? Let's go to the next lesson. Okay, so constructor parameters. We'll use a combination of constructor method and instance fields to create instances with individual state. We need to alter the constructor method because now it needs to access data we're assigning to the instance. Our car constructor now has a parameter, has a string car color. Okay, so we've seen the constructor. So let's have a look above here. We have a class called car. We have an instance field or an instance variable called color and is of type string. This is the constructor, and this constructor now takes a parameter, okay, of type string, and that parameter is called car color, okay. And we say color, which is this one, gets the value that we pass it here to our constructor. So then we need a value for the instance field color. So for this one, because at the moment it doesn't contain anything. So we've added string car color as a parameter. So we've added this one as a parameter, okay. Parameters specify the type and name of data available for reference within a method's scope. So parameters specify the type and the name of the data available for reference within a method's scope. We've already seen a parameter and the main method, so string args here, okay, those are parameters. But this is the first time we're using the parameter value within a method body. The parameter car color references the value passed during a method call. So if we're gonna, for example, run this constructor and pass it the blue value, which is a string because it's enclosed in double quotes, then this value is going to be assigned to this instance variable, okay? And same on the next line here. Within the constructor, we assign the parameter value to the instance field. So within the constructor, instead of just printing something like, hi, I'm inside the constructor, okay? We can do color, so this one, which has nothing at the moment. Why don't you take this color, so assign the color that we're passing to the constructor, assign it to our instance variable, okay? Now, if we have a look at the instructions, it says add the string parameter product to the store constructor, okay? So product, so we have to specify the type of the parameter and the name. This could have been really anything. It could have been P, okay? Okay, so we've done that. All right. Now, if we have a look at the second instruction, it says inside the constructor method, so inside the constructor, okay, set the instance variable product type, which is this one here. So set this one. Already, if it says set, we know we have to, essentially we're assigning it a value. So set this instance variable to be equal to the product parameter. So to be equal to this, okay? We're gonna run it. And that is this lesson. We're gonna move on to the next one. Assigning values to instance fields. Now that our constructor has a parameter, we must pass values into the method call. So now that our constructor has a parameter, we must pass values into the method call. These values become the state of the instance. Here we create an instance, Ferrari, in the main method with red as its color field. Okay. So we have our class called car. We have an instance variable or an instance field of type string and with the name color. This is the constructor, so we have the constructor here, and this constructor takes a parameter of type string with the name car color. Inside this constructor, we assign this value to our instance field. Okay, so we say color equals to whatever we put here, whatever value we're going to pass here. And then if we go into our main method, so the main method is where the program goes whenever we run it. Okay, it looks okay. We have the main method. Let's see, what do I have here? We have a car, so a type car. Well, let's start like this. We have a variable of type car, and this variable is gonna hold an object of type car, so new car, and now we have to pass it the parameter red. We've passed it the red, which means that this color is gonna be red now. Okay, we pass the string value red to our constructor methods. We pass the string value red to our constructor method call, new car red. Okay, the type of the value given to the invocation must match the type declared by the parameter. Inside the constructor, the parameter car color refers to the value passed during the invocation, which is red. Okay, so it refers to this value. This value is assigned to the instance field color. So this value is assigned to this because of the way we have defined things, or we have defined code in the constructor. Okay, so whenever we call the constructor with a value of type string, then take that string or take that value and assign it to color. Okay, we access the value of the field with a dot operator. Okay, so for example, we've created this variable. Okay, and if we say Ferrari dot color, okay, because all the instance variables or instance fields can be accessed as well to take their data, to extract their value, to extract their data. And I say, okay, now we have a car Ferrari. I want to know what color that is. And in order to find that out, we will do Ferrari dot color. And if we were to print that, it's going to come up on the screen as red. Okay, because red was assigned as the value of our variable here. Okay, and we've done this here. So color, this one, takes car color, and car color is this one. This could have been anything. This name could have been anything. Had this been just called C, we should have had C here as well. Okay. Okay, if we have a look at the instructions, it says like this. Inside the main, create an instance of store and assign it to the variable lemonade stand. Use lemonade as the parameter value. So let's read this once more just to make sure that we get this correctly. Inside the main, so we're here. Create an instance of store and assign it to the variable lemonade stand. Okay, so we're gonna use lemonade stand. This is the name of the variable. Okay, but the type is type store. Okay, and we're gonna assign to this one the lemonade as the parameter for our constructor. Okay, so we see here we have to pass to the constructor, we have to pass it a value of type string, and the instructions say, okay, pass it the string lemonade. If you remember from the previous lesson, which is absolutely fine if you don't, because that's what we're here to learn, we have to use the keyword new and then the name of the constructor, or the name of the class, because it's the same, yeah, the name of the constructor and the name of the class. But in here we use the keyword new and then the constructor. Okay, we're gonna end it with a semicolon, and to this constructor, because this is how it was defined. It was defined to have, to take as a parameter a value of type string. Okay, and we've given it the type string and the value is lemonade. Okay, we're gonna run this. Okay, this got ticked. We didn't get any errors. Now, if we look at the instruction number 2, it says print the instance field product type from lemonade stand. So print the instance field product type from lemonade stand. So we're gonna use the system.out.println. So print the instance field product type, okay? And we need to say lemonade stand. So we said this is the variable that holds the object or reference to that object, okay? We're gonna learn about this, what it means, what a reference is in the future lessons, but try and keep up with this without getting stuck at the things that might still not be quite clear. So if we want to print the product type of this object, we're going to take the object, we're going to do the dot notation, which I've done here, so dot, and then we have to put the name of the variable, okay? And if I'm gonna run this, we're gonna get lemonade on the screen, okay? Because that is the value of this product type, okay? There you go, lemonade. We're gonna move on to the next lesson. Multiple fields. So objects are not limited to a single instance field, which is this one. It could be product type, product price, product whatever. So it can have as many instance fields as we like, just the way it can have as many methods as we like, okay? And different constructor methods, but we'll see this as we go. Okay, so objects are not limited to a single instance field. We can declare as many fields as are necessary for the requirements of our program. Let's change car instances so they have multiple fields. We'll add boolean is running that indicates the car engine is on, and an int velocity that indicates the speed at which the car is traveling, okay? So let's quickly run through this. We have a class. The name of the class is car. The class starts here and ends here. We have some instance variables or instance fields, okay? And we've seen this one. We have a variable named color of type string. And now we're adding some more. We have another variable that is called is running and is of type boolean. And we have another variable that is called velocity and its type is int, okay? Now we have the parameters that correspond to the fields. So new parameters that correspond to the new fields have to be somehow added to the constructor, because otherwise they're gonna be just, I guess, floating around doing nothing, not being used, not being assigned any values, okay? So inside our constructor, we say let's give to our constructor, let's give it a parameter of type string called car color, okay? Let's give another parameter of type boolean that is called car running, okay? And let's give it a type of int to represent the miles per hour, okay? And now we've seen this one before. So color, which is the instance field, give to this instance field, give it the value that we pass it to the constructor. Now to the is running instance variable, assign it the value that we pass to the parameter here as a boolean, okay? Because they have to have the same type in order to work, okay? And now to velocity, which is an instance variable or an instance field, give it the value miles per hour, which comes from the values or the one of the parameters that was passed into our constructor. Okay. Now, if we go to the main method, which is the starting point of our application, that's where our program goes and sees, okay, what is the code that I need to run? Okay. So when the program goes to the main method, it says, okay, I have this Ferrari name, which is going to be the name of a variable. This name is of type car, okay? And this is going to create a new car, okay? And we're going to instantiate this object, okay? Ferrari, yeah? This is the variable that references this new object created. And this car Ferrari is going to have the color red. The state is running is going to be true. And the velocity is going to be 27. Why like this? Well, because this is how we've declared the constructor. Okay, we said the color should take this value, the first one that is given. Okay, the is running state should be given this value. The velocity should be given this value. Okay, and then here it says let's create another variable that holds another object, or it holds a reference to another object. Let's call this variable Renault. Okay, the type of this variable is going to be car. We're going to use the keyword new, and then we're going to call here or invoke the constructor. Constructor which takes 3 parameters. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, and in this case it's going to have the value blue, false, and 70. And this car Renault, okay, is gonna have the color as blue, it's gonna have the state is running as false, and the velocity is gonna be 70. Okay, now if we want to print something on the screen, so say we want to look at this Renault is running, so Renault is running is gonna print false, okay, because we know that is running in Renault was false, was given the value false here. If we have a look at the Ferrari velocity, we know that that is the last of the parameters given, and that's going to be 27. So the result of this code would be false. The result of this code will be 27, or the output of each code. Okay. The constructor now has multiple parameters to receive values for the new fields. We still specify the type as well as the name for each parameter. Ordering matters. We must pass values into the constructor invocation in the same order that they're listed in the parameters. So just the way we declared here our constructor. So we said first let it be a string, the second let it be a boolean, the third one let it be an int. It couldn't quite work. We will get an error if we were to change the ordering in which these types would be. So say if we were to pass it first as a 70 and then blue and then false, this wouldn't work the same. If we have a look at the instructions for this lesson, it goes like this. Add 2 new instances fields for store. Inventory count of type int, so of type int inventory count, and inventory price of type double. We're gonna run this. This worked okay. Let's go on to instruction number 2. It says update the store constructor method with the new parameters. The parameters should be product, count, and price. Okay, so we already have product. Now we have to add the others. We have to add one of type int. That is gonna be count. And then we have to add another one that is of type double, that is called price. You must use that order and include the types for each parameter. For example, product is of type string. Product is of type string because that value is assigned to the instance field string product type. Okay, because this value is gonna be assigned to this instance field and their type must match. Okay, just the same, this one is gonna be assigned to this one and their type must match, and the same with this one as well. Okay, let's run this. Now, if we have a look at number 3, so instruction number 3, it says in the body of the store constructor, assign the parameter values to the appropriate instance fields. So we have to assign the parameter values, so we have to assign these values to the appropriate instance fields, which are these ones. So we already have product type equals to product. So product type equals to product. Now we have to do inventory count equals to count. Then we go to inventory price, takes the value that will go in this space here in the price. Okay. If we're gonna run this, now we go to instruction number 4. It says inside main, create an instance of store called cookie shop. So we go inside the main method and we say we want the type to be store, we want the name of that variable to be cookie shop, and we want to create a new instance of the store. Okay, so we want to say new. That's the keyword to create a new object from a class. We have to take the name of the constructor, which coincides with the name of the class. Of course, we're going to end it with a semicolon. And it says like this: cookie shop has 12 cookies to sell, and each cookie costs $3.75. Well, I skipped this one. So cookie shop has cookies as the product. So we're going to pass it cookies. We're going to pass it 12. And then we're going to pass it $3.75. Okay. If we're going to run this, everything is fine. So this is how we instantiated a new object. So this is the new object created from this class, okay? And that this object is referenced by this variable, okay? Let's go on to the next lesson. This is going to be the review lesson, okay? So Java is an object-oriented programming language where every program has at least one class. Programs are often built from many classes and objects, which are instances of a class. So objects are instances of a class. Now, classes define the state and behavior of their instances. Behavior comes from methods defined in the class, and the state comes from instance fields declared inside the class. Classes are modeled on the real-world things we want to represent in our program. Later, we will explore how a program can be made from multiple classes. For now, our programs are a single class. So, for example, if you have a quick look here, we have a class called dog. We have an instance field called breed, and this instance field is of type string. We have the constructor, which is the same as the name of the class, and the constructor takes a parameter of type string that is called dog breed, okay? And now the value that we're going to pass it here whenever we create a new object is going to be assigned to the breed instance field. Okay. Now going here, we see the main method, which is the starting point of any application. On this line here, we create a new variable of type dog, and this variable is going to hold this new object or reference to this new object. And then if we want to access the value of the instance field of this object, we use the name of the object, we use the dot notation, and we access the instance field name. Okay, so we say Fido dot breed because that is the name of the instance field, and in that case we will get the value poodle. Okay, we have some instructions. The text editor contains a dog class, which is this one. Okay, well, a dog class. Play around with the code. Try to add and remove instance fields. Create instances with different values. Access and print different fields. Okay, so if we're gonna run this, let's say we can say saucy dog here. Okay, sausage dog. Okay, sausage dog, there you go. So we've changed it. We can delete some things around here. It's still gonna work if we delete this one. There you go. So this is the end of this lesson on Java classes. Okay.